r/AskReddit by Reddify. NSFW. What's the dirtiest joke you know? Removed. Farmer walks into the bedroom with a lamb under his arm and says, "This is the pig I'm ducking when you have a headache." The wife says, "That's a lamb, you moron." The farmer replies, "I was talking to the lamb." Utter gold. Udder. He wasn't ducking a cow. Your mom isn't even in this story. There was a little girl and her mother walking through the park one day and they saw two teenagers having sex on a bench. The little girl says, "Mommy, what are they doing?" The mother hesitates, then quickly replies, "They are making cakes. Now come on. We'll go to the zoo." At the zoo, the little girl sees two monkeys having sex. Again she asks her mother, "What are they doing?" And her mother replies with the same response, "They are making cakes." "That's it, we are going home." The next day the girl says to her mother, "Mommy, you and daddy were making cakes in the living room last night, weren't you?" Shocked, the mother says, "What? How do you know?" She says, "Because I licked the icing off the sofa." YOLO. Roll Tide. That's an even better punchline. What did Cinderella say when she got to the ball? Choking noises. Also acceptable. Nothing. Because a princess never talks with her mouth full. This is dubious though. Maybe she was overwhelmed by the buffet, or maybe I'm just a fat Aish. So I went to the doctor to get a physical, and he tells me, "You need to stop masturbating." I asked why. "Doc, because I'm trying to give you a physical." That actually gave me a real chuckle. I chuckled and came. A man with 5 penises goes to a tailor to get a new pair of pants. The tailor says, "5 penises. How do your pants fit?" The man says, "Like a glove." This joke is so much better if you imagine Jim Carrey saying the punchline. Meh 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 meh. Bill and Marla decided that the only way to pull off a Sunday afternoon quickie with their 10-year-old son in the apartment was to send him out on the balcony and order him to report on all the neighborhood activities. The boy began his commentary as his parents put their plan into operation. "There's a car being towed from the parking lot," he said. "An ambulance just drove by. A few moments passed. Looks like the Andersons have company," he called out. Mad *S riding a new bike and the Coopers are having sex. Mom and Dad shot up in bed. "How do you know that?" the startled father asked. "Their kid is standing out on the balcony too," his son replied. "Must have been pretty dull in the bedroom if they were more interested in the kid's commentary. Hey, you can't try. They made it all the way to ambulance this time." A boy walks into a whorehouse dragging a dead frog tied to a string. He says to the hostess, "I want the cheapest, dirtiest whore you've got." The lady says, "Alright kid, room number 10. He throws the lady a tip and goes to the room. He has his way with the whore for a while and leaves feeling accomplished. The hostess stops the boy and says, "Hey kid, I gotta ask. What made you want the dirtiest whore we have?" The boy says, "Well, later. Mom and Dad will still be at work and I'll go to my babysitter. The babysitter will touch me and hopefully catch whatever disease I just got from that whore. Then, Dad will come and pick me up. But before we leave, he'll sleep with the babysitter and get the disease. Then when we go home, Mommy will come home from work and sleep with Daddy, giving her the disease. Then tomorrow morning when Daddy leaves for work, the mailman will come and sleep with my mom. And then he will get the disease. And that's the cunt who ran over my frog." Edit. Grammar. The second set of quotation marks kills the punchline. They shouldn't close if the same person is talking. Yeah, I agree. A husband comes home to find his wife with her suitcases packed in the living room. "Where the hell do you think you're going?" he says. "I'm going to Las Vegas. You can earn $400 for a blowjob there. And I figured that I might as well earn money for what I do to you free." The husband thinks for a moment, goes upstairs, and comes back down with his suitcase packed as well. "Where do you think you're going?" the wife asks. "I'm coming with you. I want to see how you survive on $800 a year." A man walks in and says to his wife, "Pack your bags. I've just had great news. Won the lottery. $100 million dollars." She says, "Honey, that's amazing. Should I pack for warm weather or cool weather? I don't give a shit. As long as you're out of here by noon." Pubs open. Get your coat darling. I'm coming with you. No. I'm turning off the heating. A couple had only been married for 2 weeks. The husband, although very much in love, couldn't wait to go out on the town and party with his old buddies. So, he said to his new wife, "Honey, I'll be right back." "Where are you going?" "Coochie coo?" asked the wife. "I'm going to the bar." "Pretty face. I'm going to have a beer." The wife said. "You want a beer, my love?" She opened the door to the refrigerator and showed him 25 different kinds of beer. Brands from 12 different countries: Germany, Holland, Japan, India, etc. The husband didn't know what to do, and the only thing that he could think of saying was, "Yes, lollipop, but at the bar, you know, they have frozen glasses." He didn't get to finish the sentence because the wife interrupted him by saying, "You want a frozen glass? Puppy face?" She took a huge beer mug out of the freezer, so frozen that she was getting chills just holding it. The husband, looking a bit pale, said, "Yes, Tootsie Roll. But at the bar they have those hors d'oeuvres that are really delicious. I won't be long. I'll be right back. I promise." "Okay, you want hors d'oeuvres? Coochie?" She opened the oven and took out 4 dishes of different hors d'oeuvres: chicken wings, pigs in blankets, mushroom caps, and pork strips. "But my sweet honey, at the bar, you know they're swearing, dirty words and all that. You want dirty words? Cutie pie. Listen up wanker. Sit down. Shut the duck up. Drink your damn beer in your damn frozen mug. And eat your duck ein hors d'oeuvres." Dude goes to his doctor and says, "Doc, my asshole is the size of a dustbin lid." Doc says, "Duck, I better have a look." So old mate down with the pants bends over and sure enough, asshole the size of a dustbin lid. Doc says, "Duck, that's bad. How did that happen?" Bloke says, "I was on safari in Africa and an elephant raped me." Doc says, "Duck, that's bad. But I thought elephants had really long cocks. But not all that thick." Bloke says, "Yeah. But the bastard fingered me first." Somehow the doc, being an immediate elephant cock expert, is the funniest bit to me. The idea of a doctor saying, "Duck, I better have a look," was the funniest part to me. He's an Aussie doctor. Why are priests bad at marathons? Because they always come in a little behind. Jesus, this is the only one to actually make me laugh. I don't know if Jesus is a part of this thread. He's nowhere near it. Not a dirty joke, more of a dark joke. A man is walking down along the beach when he notices a woman with no arms or legs in her wheelchair by the shore crying. He asks, "Why are you crying?" She replies, "I've never been hugged before." So the man gives her a hug. Upon noticing her still crying, he then asks, "Why are you still crying?" She says, "I have never been kissed before." And so the man gives her a kiss. Still crying. He then asks, "What is wrong now?" She then tells him, "I have never been ducked before." So the man picks her up and throws her into the ocean and yells, "Now you're ducked." My dad told me this when I was 13. It was the hardest I ever saw him laugh. Those tender father-son moments are the ones you treasure. Not sure if serious or well played perverted sarcasm. Edit looks at username. Never mind. A British officer is newly assigned to a remote foreign outpost. After a few weeks, he quietly takes the sergeant aside and asks, "What do the men do when they feel, you know, urges?" The sergeant nods and starts, "Right sir, well there's a camel," but is immediately cut off by the officer. I can't even imagine being that desperate. The weeks turn to months. He gets that desperate. Afterwards, battered and kicked, he's talking to the sergeant. "My, that wasn't pleasant. I don't know how the men put up with it." "Well sir, the men usually just ride the camel to the nearest town and visit the brothel. Transport plane crashes in the desert. The whole crew of 8 survives, but they're in real trouble. On the second day, they find the camel and the pilot says, 'Right, you chaps, we'll ride this camel to the nearest town. Everybody climb on.' After 10 hours of walking, the camel's knees buckle, and it sinks to the ground. 'Camel's ducked,' says the pilot. Voice from the corporal in the back, 'I'm sorry sir. It was the only way I could stay on.' This corporal did a 10-hour long cock pull-up. Tenacious D would be proud. What's the difference between a chickpea and a garbanzo bean? I've never paid to have a garbanzo bean on my face. What's the difference between an enzyme and a hormone? You can't hear an enzyme. How do you make a hormone? Leave without paying. What's the difference between jelly and jam? I can't jelly my ike down your throat. If you are enjoying the video, please give a thumbs up and leave a comment. Me, what's the difference between a child and a hooker? Friend, I dunno. Me, you sick duck. That's along the lines of, would you suck my ike if I washed it? Hell no, you dirty cocksucker. Bob's out with the rest of his army troop on deployment out in the middle of nowhere. After a couple of months, the loneliness and exile frustration starts really getting to him. He even tries subtly beating off in his bunk while the rest of the room's asleep, but gets sharply hissed at from the guy next to him. Bob internally curses that of course he got stuck next to the light sleeper. After a bit of hushed scolding, the other guy softens up a bit. I understand, Bob. I really do. We all got urges. Just don't wank around the rest of us, dude. It's not right. Well, what do I do then? Asks Bob frustratedly. How do you survive without beating off this long? There aren't even any brothels nearby to pay for a bit of relief. The guy looks carefully at Bob and after a moment goes, you know, you seem on the level. And more importantly, I don't want you wanking in here. There's a tree out about half a mile south of here. It's half hollow. But if you slide your ike in the small hole on the south side of it, you'll swear you were ducking the tightest pussy on earth. Bob thinks this sounds absolutely ridiculous, but he's desperate. Of course he goes to check it out the very next night. Lo and behold, there's the tree. And yes, he can see a small hole perfectly shaped to slide a ike into. Shrugging his shoulders, he goes ahead, and the other guy was right. Tight as duck. Warm and soft. Bob half wonders if this is a magic tree. Only takes a few seconds for him to bust a nut. He's so pent up. And he returns like clockwork as soon as he has any free time in the evening. The next 4 times are as good as the first. But the next time he comes back, the tree suddenly feels, well, like a hollow tree. Nothing like the last few times. Bob's confused and furious in equal measure when he sees his bunkmate heading towards the tree too. I think it's broken, Bob tries to explain. His bunkmate shakes his head as he loosens the buckle on his belt. Nah, Bob, it's just your turn inside the tree. Edit. I'm getting a lot of feedback that there are many similar jokes, but with a barrel instead. All I can say is this is the version I heard / no. A new captain was sent to join his squadron stationed at a desert town in the middle of nowhere. Soon as he gets there he notices a lack of women and asks one of the men what they do for recreation. The man says, well, if you go down to the village outside the camp, you'll find an old guy called Hand with camel tied to the tree. Whenever a guy gets an urge, we go to Hand and pay to use the camel. The captain thinks this is disgusting, but it's a long posting with months until his first leave. So he tucks away this knowledge, but vows not to use it if he can. Eventually, stress gets the better of him, and after a few weeks he heads down to find the old man, haggles over the price and sets about ducking this camel. Anyway, he's at it a hole, while it turns out he's a lot more stressed than he thought. When someone taps him on the shoulder, and it's one of his men with old Hand who says, sorry to interrupt you, Captain, but Hand wants to know if you'll be much longer. Some of the boys want to hire the camel to ride down to the next town where all the women are. I've never heard this version. Great ending. Alt version. Similar setup. But when the troop gets a break, they all start running towards the camels. The newbie, who doesn't understand why they're all running, bolts along and follows the nearest guy. Hey, I get why we are going to these camels. But why is everyone running? The guy, still running, looks back and says, well, you don't want to get the ugly one. Make sure to like and subscribe so we can watch together.